So is Bitcoin a buy? So looking at Bitcoin on the daily chart, you can see that Bitcoin has broken through all of the moving averages, right? The 9, the 20, the 50, the 180, the 200-day moving average, right? And right now, which is today's Saturday, July 6th, 2024, right? You can see that, you know, Bitcoin is trying to regain, going above the 200-day moving average, right? But you can clearly see that right now Bitcoin is struggling to get past through the 200-day moving average. And yeah, and so basically in a way I feel like do I think getting into Bitcoin is a good opportunity right now? Um, me personally, right? If I had the money to get into Bitcoin, right? You know, me personally, I would get in, right? But obviously this is not financial advice, right? But looking at on, Bitcoin on the weekly chart, right? You can see that Bitcoin has broken through the 9 and the 20-day moving average. Right now, it's under the 20-day moving average. And if Bitcoin tries to go past the 20-day moving average, it's going to have to go it's going to have to obviously go above the 20-day moving average. That way we can see that okay, Bitcoin isn't going to keep crashing further, right? But seeing that, in the past that Bitcoin's previous support level is 56,479, right? And right now it's in the 57,000 range, right? It could possibly use the previous support, right, as a way to, bounce to the upwards momentum, right? So basically Bitcoin could, retrace back to all-time highs of 70,000, 71,000, and probably even surpass all-time highs of 73,826, right? So if I had an entry, right, to choose to get into Bitcoin, right, obviously I would use this support level of 56,479, right? And right now it's at 57,899, right? It's fluctuating, right? The price is fluctuating, right? But obviously, seeing that, Bitcoin is, you can see in the past too, right? Like, Bitcoin was hovering around like 59,000, 60,000, 59,000. Then it touched 56,000. And then you can see that candle, right? Where it's at 56,479, right? You can see that, Bitcoin wanted to break that 20-day moving average, right? But it's somewhat like it didn't really touch it, but it acted as a way of support, and basically it regained that momentum once it jumped off sort of the 20-day moving average. And then you can see, it just went upwards all the way to 71,970 on, May 25th, right? And right now, Bitcoin is down, right, to, 57,911, right? But if, Bitcoin were to keep crashing down, right, the next level that I would personally, get into, right, is 47,099, right? And because if right now Bitcoin is under the 9 and the 20-day moving average, and if, Bitcoin doesn't use, the 56,479 level of support, right, as a way to bounce back to to the all-time highs, right? Then possibly Bitcoin could touch maybe the 47,000 level, right? And so in a way, I wanted to talk about like a prediction, right? Of what price level could Bitcoin reach, right, by the end of this year. And knowing that, Bitcoin had its halving event, when was it? April 20th, right? And seeing here on this chart, right, where Bitcoin has had its halving, right? You can clearly see, after its halving, Bitcoin's just skyrocketed. Like for example, I think it's this 2012 halving, right? It halved and it went up. This I think it's 2016 halving, it went up. The 2020 halving happened and it went up. And so right now, we're at the 2024 halving, right? And seeing that when Bitcoin does have its rise, right? Usually what you see is it increases, but then it crashes down just as it approaches the halving event, right? And as soon as it approaches the halving event, Bitcoin reaches all-time high. And so that's interesting in a way because right now this could be like, how do you say? I guess you could say the accumulation phase where everybody is trying to get into Bitcoin, right? And so people are like, "Whoa, let's like this is a new thing. I never knew this thing existed," or basically it's Bitcoin is being explored by everyone, right? It's like the new internet in a way. And so you can clearly see right here on the crypto fear and greed index, right? Right now, let's refresh it. Let's see if it's still the same thing. Okay. Fear is right now at 29, right? And so basically, in a way, right? If fear is at 29, that could possibly mean that Bitcoin could possibly keep declining, right? Who knows, right? And then seeing, I want to show you guys, right? On 11/28, 2012, Bitcoin was at $12, right? And then on, what was it? Is it April? I mean, sorry, July 9th, I think, 2016, Bitcoin was at 648. And then the third halving, which is 5/11, 2020, Bitcoin was at 8,572. And then the fourth halving that happened in April, you know, uh, let's see, what price was Bitcoin in April? So Bitcoin on April was at the low was 59,000 and then it finished with a high of 72,000. So, knowing that, history, the saying goes how history can repeat itself, right? In a way, I feel like Bitcoin could potentially go up to by the end of this year, hopefully, maybe, right? I mean, not hopefully, right? But because this is a long-term investment, right? Or a long-term, uh, you know, I don't know how to say it, but basically, in a way, Bitcoin has a long way to, before it's finished, right? In a way, so like Bitcoin possibly by this year or next year could be at 100,000, 100,000, And it's kind of crazy that a lot of people are saying that, with the recent bull run that Bitcoin had, um, you know, a lot of people are saying that that bull run was priced in. And I feel like in a way, no and yes, but I feel like possibly Bitcoin could, I don't know, how do you say, like, in a way, I feel like Bitcoin could totally ignore that and go on a huge bull run, and they could catch a lot of people off guard. Uh, by by Bitcoin doing that, right? And so in a way, I feel like Bitcoin right now is in it's like, how do you say, what is it called? Like in the stock market, what's it called? I guess you could say it's consolidating in a way, right? Before it reaches that new high, right? And so in a way, I feel like right now we're in the accumulation phase, and if Bitcoin, you know, decides to repeat history, Bitcoin could possibly touch 100,000, 150,000. Who knows, really? This is all just predictions in a way. Nobody really knows what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Because in a way, Bitcoin is like how everyone discovered the internet. Nobody knows what will happen with Bitcoin in a way. But you can clearly see that, big institutions are getting in Bitcoin. They want in, right? They're now seeing that, oh, it's not a scam. It's a legitimate, thing that people are, interested in, right? And with the Bitcoin ETF, the Ethereum ETF, right? Um, that's another thing we could talk about, right? But Bitcoin, I feel like everybody wants to get in right now into Bitcoin because they don't want to miss out on this life-changing opportunity. Obviously, there's a risk that Bitcoin could, you know I don't know, like it could not keep repeating history and keep rising and rising and rising, right? But in a way, you can clearly see that Bitcoin is the future. Bitcoin is the future because it's outperformed multiple sectors, the real estate sector, the um I don't know how many sectors there are, right? In the stock market, the energy sector, whatever, right? And it's outperformed the S&P 500, right? And so there's people, right, that don't know how to open let's say a Coinbase account, or there's people that don't know how to open you know an account to buy crypto, right? And so what people do is like, oh, well, I don't know how to buy Bitcoin, so I'm just gonna invest into the Bitcoin ETF like BITO or some other Bitcoin ETFs that are out there. That's the only one I know on the top of my head, right? BITO, BITO, right? And so, yeah, there's just multiple people out there that are discovering about Bitcoin and, knowing that Bitcoin could be a potential investment that could give you 100 times return on your investment, right? And so, in a way, I feel like Bitcoin right now, at the level it's at, right? Me personally, I would get into Bitcoin, right? If I had the money, obviously, but I don't. Um, you know, and if it, obviously, if I were to see like, you know, I don't know what I'm saying anymore, but I feel like Bitcoin is the future, and I feel like Bitcoin right now is in its accumulation phase, or I would say it's in its consolidation phase. And then I feel like I feel like maybe by next year or by the end of this year, Bitcoin could reach, all-time highs, new all-time highs, Who knows really? But in a way, I feel like, Bitcoin is the future. It's, you know, big institutions are getting in, BlackRock and other institutions, right? There's already Bitcoin ETFs happening, right? And then there's Ethereum ETFs, and then there's a supposed Solana ETF, right? I'm not very familiar with Solana, right? I'm only familiar with Bitcoin and a little bit of Ethereum, right? And so I feel like in a way, yeah, that you know, I don't know, Bitcoin is the future. I'm, me personally, if I had money, right, I would invest $5 into Bitcoin every day, right? And possibly I could, not miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime, right? But we will see if history repeats itself, right? I feel like right now Bitcoin is in its accumulation phase, or I would say it's in its consolidation phase. And so, like I said, Bitcoin right now is in the now speaking right now, it's in the 58,000 range now. So, Bitcoin and, crypto overall is volatile, unlike the S&P 500, right? Where, I mean, unless you're trading options, right? And or if the stock market crashes like crazy, right? That's crypto is 100% more volatile. And so you could see your returns 100 times faster than you would with, and with the stock market basically. And so in a way, I feel like Bitcoin's the future. Big institutions are trying to get in, and if that doesn't mean anything to you, that means that you're probably not understanding that Bitcoin is the new internet in a way, basically. And everyone remembers when the internet was discovered and everyone was bashing the internet saying, "Oh, it's just a fad," or I don't know how you would say it, right? But it's just like a little phase. It's gonna go away. It's not gonna be a big deal in the future. And look, we're using internet, right? And so I feel like that's what's gonna happen with Bitcoin. Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh man, I should have at least, invested into a Bitcoin ETF, or I should have opened a brokerage account, whether it be with Coinbase or whatever brokerage accounts are out there, right? And I could have invested a little bit of money into Bitcoin. My goal is to invest into Bitcoin before, you know, I miss this opportunity, right? And so, in a way, I feel like Bitcoin could change everyone's life, really, really. But we will see what happens with Bitcoin. Right now, it's in the 58,000 range as I'm speaking right now. But we will see. We will see. But as always, take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, take care, guys. Bye.